Hey guys, tonight we drift to the windswept shores of the Aegean, where smoke from countless campfires coils upward into the night sky. The year is not fixed in neat calendars, it lives in the twilight between myth and memory. But for 10 relentless years the armies of Greece have battered themselves against the walls of Troy. You are there, standing barefoot on hard soil, stamped flat by a decade of marching feet, the salty tang of the sea clinging to your throat. Behind you, Greek ships sit restless at anchor. Before you the great city rises, its walls gleaming like the bones of gods. 10 years of fighting, 10 years of death, 10 years of stubborn stone, and still Troy does not fall. The first sound you notice is silence, the eerie kind that comes after too much noise. The war has dragged so long that even the cries of battle have become background music. A dull thrum you barely register anymore. You hear instead the mutters of men sharpening swords, the sighs of soldiers staring into firelight, the shuffle of weary feet as they pace the camp. The Greeks are tired, you are tired. Even the sea seems tired, its waves lapping the shore without spirit. But fatigue is not the same as surrender. 10 years of frustration has hardened the Greeks into something else, a grim determination that will not let go. You see it in the eyes of Agamemnon, the High King, whose pride burns hotter than any torch. You see it in Menelaus, still seething over Helen stolen from his bed. You see it in Odysseus, clever and restless, always scheming. You see it in Achilles, though by now he is gone, dead by arrow. His absence still shakes the camp like thunder after lightning. His name lingers, whispered around fires, as if even death cannot exile him from war. You look across the plain at Troy itself. Its walls are monstrous, built, they say, by Poseidon and Apollo in days when gods still walked the earth. The stones are so large it seems no human hand could have lifted them. Towers stud the walls, their silhouettes sharp against the fading light. On the battlements, Trojan archers keep constant watch, their eyes as tired as yours but their spines still straight. Inside, you know, life continues in strange normality. Children are born, bread is baked, prayers are whispered. A city under siege is still a city, stubbornly alive even while war claws at its gates. For 10 years, you've fought skirmishes on the plain. Chariots clattering, spears flying, shields splintering. For 10 years, you've watched heroes clash. Hector against Achilles, Ajax against Aeneas, Diomedes against gods themselves. You've seen rivers run red, bodies piled high, armor stripped from corpses. And yet, for all the blood spilled, neither side claims true victory. Troy still stands, the Greeks still camp, the war still drags on. The camp itself has become a city of its own. Rows of tents stretch across the beach, smoke rising from cooking fires. Blacksmiths hammer bronze into new spears, their arms aching from years of endless work. Doctors stitch wounds with rough hands, their herbs running low. Women, captives taken in raids, move among the soldiers, carrying water, tending fires, living shadows of what they once were. 10 years has aged everyone. Boys who sailed from Greece are now men with hollow cheeks and scars too deep to count. You feel the weight of time most in your own bones. You remember the day the ships first launched, sails bright against the horizon, voices raised in songs of glory. You believed you would return home in months, victorious, your name sung across Greece. Now your songs are curses, your victories ashes. The only thing that has not changed is the sight of Troy's walls, defiant, untouchable. Inside the city, the Trojans endure. You've seen them at dawn, pouring from the gates to clash on the plain. You've heard their cries as they fought for their homes, their wives, their children. You've seen Hector lead them with steady courage, his chariot wheels carving furrows into the earth. And you've seen him fall, struck down by Achilles, dragged around the walls until dust and blood covered him. Even in death, his name lives, a banner for Troy's stubborn heart. Now Priam, old and weary, sits on his throne, his sons dead or broken, his city crumbling under the weight of time, yet still he endures. The war has become a rhythm, a cycle. Raids, skirmishes, funerals, sacrifices to gods who seem deaf, prayers unanswered. You have grown so used to it, that you cannot imagine peace. War is your food, your breath, your bed. And yet, beneath it all, a question gnaws at you. How much longer, how many more years can men endure before the war itself consumes them? It is Odysseus who whispers of change. You hear him at the edge of camp, speaking softly, his eyes bright, even after so many years. We cannot break the walls, he says, but perhaps we do not need to. You lean closer, curious despite your exhaustion. He speaks of trickery, of deception, of turning Troy's pride against itself. His words are sharp, his tone certain. The others scoff, some laugh, but you feel a spark flicker in your chest. Perhaps after 10 years of blunt force, it is wit that will break the city. You fall asleep that night to the same sounds as always. The crash of waves, the crackle of fire, the groans of weary men. But in your dreams, you see something strange, a giant horse, its flanks hollow, its body towering above men. You see torches flickering inside its belly, eyes glinting in the dark. You see the gates of Troy open, the horse dragged inside, the city cheering, and then you see fire roaring higher than the walls, flames swallowing towers, screams rising into the night. You wake with your heart pounding, the dream clinging to you like smoke. You shake your head, telling yourself it was nothing, only a shadow of exhaustion. But deep inside, you know it is more. Deep inside, you feel it. The war is shifting. The stalemate is ending, and Troy, proud Troy, is teetering on the edge of its fall. For now, the city still stands, the war still grinds on, the Greeks still wait. But in the campfires of the night, in the clever mind of Odysseus, in the restless heart of Alexander's distant ancestors, the seed of an ending has already been planted, and soon that seed will blaze into fire. The morning sun climbs above the Aegean, its light striking Troy's walls until they gleam like bronze. You squint, your eyes watering, and for a moment it almost feels like the city is mocking you. 10 years of war, 10 years of blood, 10 years of sweat ground into the earth, and those walls still rise, whole and proud, as if untouched. You wipe the grit from your face and stare upward, tracing their impossible height. They say Poseidon and Apollo themselves built these walls in ages past, working in disguise for King Laomedon, who tried to cheat them of their wages. The gods, angered, built them so strong that no mortal army could ever breach them. You feel the truth of that in your bones. You've seen the Greeks batter them with rams and scaling ladders, only to fall back, broken and humiliated. You've seen arrows rain down from the battlements like iron hail. You've seen men impaled on spears as they tried to climb. You've seen bodies pile at the base of the walls, unburied, their bones whitening under the sun. But the walls are not just stone. They are Troy's spirit. Behind them, life continues, as if defiance itself can feed a people. You imagine the city inside, narrow streets, winding between houses of mud, brick and timber, markets buzzing with trade, children chasing each other through alleys. You picture bakers pulling flatbread from clay ovens, potters shaping vessels, women at their looms weaving patterns of color even as war drums thud outside. Troy has not stopped living. It refuses to. You think of Helen, the woman at the center of it all. She walks those streets, the cause of 10 years of death, the prize men still bleed for. Does she weep for Greece, her homeland? Or has she grown resigned to her life here, her beauty turned curse? Some say she regrets, others say she loves Paris still, others that she merely endures. No one knows for sure, but you cannot think of Troy without thinking of her, the ghost behind its walls, the flame that refuses to burn out. The defenders are no less fierce. Each morning, you see them gathering at the Scaean gate, bronze armor gleaming in the light, spears upright like a forest. You hear their voices as they march, steady and strong, unbroken despite exhaustion. They are not cowards cowering behind stone. They are warriors, fighting for their wives, their children, their gods. You remember Hector, leading them once, his chariot wheels cutting across the plain, his voice booming above the clash. His death should have broken them. Instead, it made them harder, sharper, more desperate. Now Aeneas, cousin of the royal line, rallies them. His voice is quieter than Hector's, but his determination is just as fierce. Priam, the king, is old, but his presence is still felt. You've seen him stand on the walls, his white beard flowing, his frail hands lifted in prayer. He looks more like a priest than a king now, but the Trojans still bow before him, still believe his faith keeps the city alive. His palace rises within the walls, a sprawling complex of courtyards, columns and halls filled with memories of generations. You can almost see it from here, pillars catching the sun, doorways hung with woven cloth, altars smoking with sacrifice. It is a palace that has stood longer than your memory, longer than your father's memory, perhaps longer than Greece itself. And then there is the temple of Athena, the goddess who has stood by Troy through every year of war. You know it well. You've seen the Trojans rush to it in times of fear, carrying offerings, begging for her protection. The statue of the goddess, carved in ancient days, stands there still, spear raised, eyes watching, unblinking. You shudder when you think of it, for you know the Greeks once tried to steal her image, and failed. Some whisper that until the statue is gone, Troy can never truly fall. Life inside the city is not only endurance, it is stubborn pride. Markets still open though goods are scarce. Priests still chant, though their gods are silent. Weddings are held, babies are born, funerals march through the streets. You imagine the mixture of smells, bread baking, incense burning, sweat of men training, smoke of sacrifices. You imagine the sounds, the clatter of pottery, the laughter of children, the clang of hammers on bronze, all of it carried out in the shadow of war. All of it proof that Troy still breathes. But you also sense the cracks. The siege has gone on too long. Supplies run thin. Farmers can no longer work the fields without risking Greek ambushes. Water is rationed. Hunger gnaws at the poor. Merchants whisper that gold cannot feed empty bellies. The walls are unbroken. Yes, but what about the people behind them? Stone does not bleed, but flesh does. And flesh can only endure so much. At night the city glows faintly with firelight, torches flickering on the battlements. You watch from the plain as shadows move along the walls, soldiers keeping their endless watch. You imagine mothers tucking children into bed, whispering stories to drown the fear. You picture Priam on his knees in a darkened temple, his voice shaking as he begs the gods to hold the walls another day. You picture Paris, bow in hand, his beauty long tarnished by war, pacing the palace like a restless ghost. You picture Helen, gazing out from a window, her eyes catching the moonlight, her thoughts unknowable. The city stands, but you can feel its weariness. It is a lion still bristling but old, its claws dulled, its roars hoarse. It fights because it must, not because it believes victory will come. And the Greeks, your comrades, your captains, your kings, sense this too. You see it in their eyes when they stare at the walls. They know the city will not fall to spears alone. They know time itself is the weapon now. And yet, you also sense something else. A shift in the air, a tremor in the rhythm of war. 10 years of stalemate cannot last forever. A city cannot live forever under siege. You hear Odysseus's whispering voice again, his mind working faster than the rest. You see Agamemnon's clenched jaw, Menelaus's restless glare, Ajax's fists pounding in frustration. The Greeks are desperate, yes, but desperation breeds invention. Something is coming. For now, the walls of Troy rise strong, unbroken. For now, the city still breathes, still sings, still prays. But you know, as surely as the sun will set again, that this cannot last. The fall has already begun, though no one yet sees how. The stalemate stretches like an old scar across the plain, and every Greek feels it itching in his bones. You rise in the dawn mist, the chill salt air seeping into your lungs, and you hear the same sounds you have heard for a decade. The groan of ship timbers, the clang of blacksmiths shaping bronze, the muttered curses of men who no longer believe glory waits on these shores. The war has eaten your youth, and the city still stands. Something must change. It begins, as it so often does with words, Odysseus's words. You see him one evening in Agamemnon's tent, his eyes sharp, his voice steady, his hands tracing invisible shapes in the air. The firelight flickers on his face, and, in it you glimpse the restless mind that has outwitted monsters and men alike. He does not shout like Ajax. He does not thunder like Agamemnon. He speaks softly, almost lazily, but every syllable lands like a spear point. We cannot take the walls, he says. We cannot starve them out. But perhaps we can trick them. At first, the suggestion draws only laughter. Trick a city, trick walls built by gods, trick Priam, who has outlasted every Greek hero sent against him. Nestor, old and wise, shakes his head, muttering that men have died enough already. Ajax scoffs, insisting that if the army only fought harder, if they only had one more day of Achilles, they could batter down Troy's gates by brute force. But Odysseus does not flinch. He waits until their voices fade, then speaks again. They believe themselves safe. They believe their walls unbreakable. Let us use their pride against them. You lean forward, straining to hear. Pride, that word, cuts true. You have seen it in the way Trojans strut upon the battlements, the way their princes ride out in shining chariots, the way they mock Greek failures from the safety of their stone heights. If Odysseus can turn that pride into weakness, perhaps the war will finally end. Menelaus is the first to ask the question. His voice is hard, bitter from 10 years of chasing a single woman. And how do you propose we do that? Odysseus smiles, a small, sly smile that makes you uneasy. With a gift. A murmur ripples through the tent. A gift? What madness is this? Gifts are for festivals, not sieges. Yet Odysseus continues, undisturbed. We build something vast, something sacred, an offering to Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. A horse, carved of wood, large enough to awe their eyes. We leave it on the plain. Then we sail away, or at least make them think we have. They will drag it into their city as a trophy, a sign that we have surrendered to their gods. But inside, he pauses, his voice dropping to a whisper. Inside, we hide our best fighters. At night, they open the gates, and the city is ours. The tent falls silent. You hear only the crackle of the fire, the hiss of smoke. For a moment, you think the men will laugh again, but they do not. You see Agamemnon's eyes narrow, weighing the scheme. You see Menelaus's lips curl, imagining Helen returned at last. You see Diomedes lean forward, his face lit by the idea of revenge. Even Ajax, slow to yield, shifts uncomfortably, as if realizing that brute strength may never end this war. Nestor speaks first, his voice trembling with age but firm with wisdom. It is dangerous. If they discover the trick, all is lost. But it may be the only way. Agamemnon strokes his beard, eyes glittering. A horse, he mutters. An offering to Athena. Yes, it is fitting. They will see piety where there is only cunning. He slams his fist on the table, startling you. We will do it. The decision spreads through camp like wildfire. Some scoff at the idea, muttering that Greeks have fallen too far if they must hide in toys. Others laugh uneasily, unsure whether to call it genius or madness. But as carpenters begin their work, doubt gives way to fascination. The horse begins as an idea. Now it becomes wood, shape, body, and as it rises, so too does hope. Yet you feel unease. You walk the camp at night, hearing the whispers. If we fail, we will be trapped inside like rats. What if the Trojans burn it? What if Athena herself curses us for daring to trick in her name? But still the work continues. 10 years of frustration has made men willing to gamble anything. Better to risk all than to waste another decade bleeding on the plain. Odysseus walks among the carpenters, his eyes sharp, his hands always gesturing, correcting, refining. He insists the horse be vast, taller than any gate, grander than any altar. It must look like something no man could resist, he says. A prize too rich, a symbol too sacred. You see the gleam in his eyes, the way his mind dances ahead of every doubt. You cannot help but shiver. The gods, too, seem to watch. Sacrifices are made, omens read. The priests mutter that Athena is silent, neither approving nor condemning. Perhaps she smiles at the cleverness. Perhaps she seethes at the blasphemy. No one knows. The Greeks press forward anyway. Silence is better than refusal. Meanwhile, the Trojans continue their routines. Unaware, from the battlements, you see them laughing, mocking the Greeks' quiet camp. Believing the enemy weary, broken, too tired to strike again, you almost pity them. Almost. At night, you lie awake, staring at the stars, listening to the sea. The sound of hammers rings faintly across camp. A steady beat, like the heartbeat of something vast being born. You picture the horse in your mind, its flanks hollow, its belly dark, its presence immense. You imagine yourself inside it, pressed against the wood, holding your breath as Trojans drag it through their gates. You imagine the silence of the city at night, the creak of the hatch opening, the rush of air as warriors spill out, the thunder of feet as the gates swing wide. And then you imagine fire, towering, consuming, roaring against the sky. The war is shifting. You feel it in your marrow. The stalemate cannot last. The Greeks are desperate, yes, but desperation has teeth, and Odysseus has given it a jaw. The scheme is set. The horse will rise. The end is coming. You do not know if it will bring glory or doom, but you know this. Troy's fate now hangs not on spears or swords, but on a lie. The sound of hammers becomes the rhythm of your days, from dawn until dusk. The carpenters work, their bodies slick with sweat, their hands raw from splinters. They are not warriors, these men, but craftsmen pressed into service, building not walls or ships this time, but something stranger, a beast of wood, a horse larger than any stallion that ever roamed the plains of Ilium. You watch it take shape, piece by piece, a skeleton rising from the sand, each timber joined with pegs and ropes, each plank curved into the illusion of living flesh. At first it seems laughable. A horse? You and your comrades chuckle when the frame is nothing more than crooked beams. Some scoff that this is what 10 years of war has come to. Men carving a giant toy while their brothers rot beneath Troy's walls. But the shape grows, ribs arch upward, a neck stretches tall, a head begins to form with ears pricked and eyes staring forward. The laughter fades. Now, when you pass the site, you find yourself slowing, staring. The horse towers over men already, its body swelling with each new plank, its presence unsettling. Odysseus oversees every detail. He walks among the carpenters like a general inspecting troops. His clever eyes catching flaws no one else notices. Make the belly hollow, he says. Large enough to hide 50 men, perhaps more. Reinforce the legs or they will splinter when dragged. Carve the head proud, so it looks like a gift worthy of a goddess. He is relentless, his mind sharper than any blade. When men falter, he reminds them, this is the key to Troy. This wood will do what our spears could not. And they work harder, spurred by his conviction. As the body takes form, the interior is shaped. You climb inside one afternoon, ducking through a hatch, cut low in the flank. The space is dark, the air heavy with the scent of fresh pine and pitch. Your hands brush the curved planks, smooth yet claustrophobic. You crouch low, imagining 50 warriors crammed shoulder to shoulder, swords pressed against their sides, armor clinking softly. It feels less like a horse and more like a coffin. Your stomach twists, but you force yourself to believe. If this madness succeeds, it will end the war. If it fails, well, you will not live to know the failure. Outside, the horse grows until it towers above the camp. Its flanks gleam with polished wood, its mane carved with care, its tail flowing in stiff arcs. The head looms proud, nostrils flared, as if sniffing the air for glory. Its eyes, painted dark, seem to follow you wherever you walk. Soldiers mutter uneasily. It looks too alive, one whispers. Another crosses himself, muttering prayers to ward off spirits. Even carpenters glance nervously at their creation, as if they fear it might move of its own accord. The Greeks begin to spin stories about it already. Some say it is blessed by Athena, the goddess of wisdom herself guiding their hands. Others claim it is cursed, that the gods laugh at men hiding in wood. You hear both whispers in equal measure. Sacrifices are made to Athena daily now. Oxen, goats, doves, blood spilled in hopes the goddess smiles on the trick. The priests say little. They read the entrails, shrug, and mutter of omens both good and ill. It is enough to keep men working, but not enough to ease their fears. The Trojans, from their walls, see the horse rising. At first, they laugh, mocking the strange shape. Have the Greeks turned to carpentry, they shout. Will they build their victory from wood? Their jeers echo across the plain, but as the horse grows taller, their voices falter. It is no longer so easy to mock something so immense, so uncanny. They whisper among themselves, their laughter thinning, their eyes narrowing. You see it from afar, the unease settling in their ranks as they watch the strange beast rise. Inside the Greek camp, debate rages. Some argue the horse is folly. We are warriors, not tricksters. Ajax bellows, let us fight like men, not rats in wood. Diomedes growls that it is cowardice, but others defend it fiercely. Menelaus, thinking of Helen, insists that any path to victory is worth taking. Agamemnon, ever proud, declares it genius, the symbol of divine cunning. Nestor, old but wise, shakes his head slowly and says, sometimes guile wins where strength cannot, and always, Odysseus stands at the center, smiling faintly, his silence more persuasive than argument. The work takes weeks. Wood is hauled from distant forests, ropes dragged across the sand, wheels fashioned to move the beast. The soldiers grow restless, eager to end the charade, but Odysseus demands patience. It must be perfect, he insists. It must dazzle their eyes, silence their doubts. One flaw, and the trick fails. So they wait, sharpening blades, mending shields, dreaming of the day they will finally step inside. You spend nights lying awake, staring at the towering shadow of the horse against the stars. It seems larger in the dark, its head blotting constellations, its legs rooted in the earth like trees. You imagine its belly filled with warriors, their breaths held, their hearts pounding. You imagine Trojans tugging it through their gates, their children touching its polished sides, their priests praising it as a gift to Athena. And then you imagine the hatch creaking open, swords sliding free, shadows spilling into the city like smoke. The day comes when the horse is finished. It stands taller than the gates of Troy, vast and gleaming, its wooden flanks polished until they shine in the sun. The Greeks gather around it in silence, awestruck despite themselves. Even Ajax, stubborn as stone, falls quiet. The horse is no longer just wood. It is presence, mystery, promise. It feels like a god carved into form, waiting to decide whether it will save you or destroy you. Agamemnon steps forward, his voice carrying across the crowd. Here is the key to Troy, he declares. Here is the end of our long suffering. His words echo, stirring men's hearts. You see their shoulders straighten, their eyes gleam. Hope, after 10 bitter years, flickers anew. Odysseus says little, only places his hand against the horse's flank, as if listening to it breathe. Then he turns, his eyes sharp, his voice calm. Now we make them believe. The plan is set. The Greeks will retreat, or at least pretend to. They will sail away, leaving the horse behind as a sacred offering, a gift to Athena. The Trojans, proud and weary, will see it not as trickery, but as surrender, a symbol of victory. They will drag it into their city, celebrating the end of the war. And when night falls, when drunken sleep softens their guards, the Greeks inside will rise. You stare up at the horse one last time, before the scheme begins. Its shadow stretches across the sand, long and dark, pointing straight toward Troy. You feel your heart quicken, your throat dry. You know this is the moment everything changes. For 10 years, you have fought against walls that would not fall. Now, you place all hope in hollow wood and whispered cunning. Perhaps it is madness, perhaps it is brilliance. Either way, the horse stands ready, and so do you. The war is about to end. The morning dawns strangely quiet, as if even the gulls circling above the beach know something unusual is coming. The ships that have lined the shore for 10 long years rock gently on the tide, sails furled, their hulls black with age and salt. Soldiers stand about the camp in restless silence, polishing shields that have already lost their shine, tightening straps on helmets scarred from 100 skirmishes. They do not speak loudly today. They wait. You feel the tension in your stomach as Agamemnon strides to the center of camp, his cloak brushing the sand, his face hard as carved stone. Odysseus is at his side, calm and watchful, the faintest flicker of triumph glinting in his eyes. Behind them, the horse looms, its vast shadow stretching across the ground. Today is the day the Greeks will disappear, or at least, make the Trojans believe they have. The plan is simple in words, terrifying in practice. The army will board the ships and sail away, but only far enough to vanish from Trojan sight. The horse will remain, standing solitary on the plain before the gates, wheels buried in the sand as if planted by fate. To the Trojans, it must look like an offering, a surrender, a gift to the gods. To you it feels like a gamble against the will of heaven itself. The soldiers begin to move. Chariots creak, armor clinks, ropes strain as supplies are hauled aboard ships. The air smells of tar and seaweed, of sweat and iron. You hear the murmurs, will they believe it? What if they burn the horse? What if the gods betray us? But the murmurs fade as captains bark orders, and men shove off in longboats, their oars dipping in unison. The fleet begins to pull away, the creak of timbers mingling with the slap of waves. You remain on the shore, one of those chosen to hide with Odysseus, and the others inside the horse. Your heart pounds as you watch the fleet diminish, sails shrinking against the horizon. The Trojan walls bristle with figures, their archers shading eyes to watch. Shouts drift faintly across the plain. Confusion, curiosity, disbelief. The Greeks, it seems, are leaving. The camp is abandoned in haste, or so it must appear. Tents collapse into the sand. Half-burned fires smoke faintly. Discarded spears lie scattered. But it is the horse that commands all eyes. Standing tall, polished wood, gleaming in the sun. It looks both awe-inspiring and ominous, its head lifted as though sniffing the wind. Beside it lies only one figure, Sinon, chosen by Odysseus for his sharp tongue and steady nerve. You watch him now, crouched in the dust, his tunic torn, his face smeared with ash. He looks the part of a man, abandoned, desperate, betrayed. His job is simple, yet perilous. To sell the lie, to weave words that will pull the Trojans toward their own destruction. You do not envy him. From the walls, a horn sounds. The great gates creak, their hinges groaning like old trees in a storm. A crowd spills forth, Trojans in armor, citizens clutching cloaks, priests with staffs. They approach cautiously, circling the horse at a distance, eyes wide, voices low. You can almost feel their awe and suspicion ripple across the plain. Some point at the horse's carved flanks, others mutter prayers, others scowl with mistrust. Then they see Sinon. With shouts, they drag him forward, spears pressed to his throat. You cannot hear every word from where you stand, but you can imagine the exchange. Who are you? Why are you left behind? What is this thing? And Sinon, clever, desperate, convincing, spins his tale. He speaks of Greek betrayal, of being abandoned by his comrades. He weaves lies with threads of truth, saying the horse is an offering to Athena, meant to secure the Greeks' safe return home. He warns them, destroy it, and you risk angering the goddess herself. The Trojans murmur, torn between suspicion and belief. You hold your breath, every nerve taut. If they strike him down, if they burn the horse here and now, all is lost. The war will continue, years more of blood and stalemate, but if they believe, if they drag the horse inside, Troy is already finished. As Sinon speaks, the fleet vanishes over the horizon, hidden behind a nearby island. The deception is perfect. From the walls, the Trojans see only what Odysseus wished them to see: a horse, a gift, a sign of Greek retreat. Priam himself comes forward, borne in a chariot, his old body cloaked in royal robes. He peers at the horse, his face unreadable, his voice carries faintly across the plain, weary, skeptical, but tinged with hope. If this is an offering to the goddess, he says, Should we not accept it? His words ripple through the crowd, and you sense the tide shifting. Yet, not all are fooled. Laocoon, the priest of Poseidon, steps forth, his face dark with fury. He raises his arms, shouting so loudly that even you can hear. Beware, Trojans. Do not trust Greeks bearing gifts. His spear flashes in the sunlight as he hurls it against the horse's flank. It strikes deep, the wood shuddering, the hollow belly echoing with a faint, metallic ring. For a heartbeat, you freeze, certain the ruse is undone. The Trojans murmur uneasily, some staring wide-eyed, as if they too heard the echo of hidden men. But fate intervenes? Or perhaps the gods themselves? For even as Laocoon rages, the sea boils. From the surf surge two monstrous serpents, coils thick as trees, scales gleaming red and green. They crash upon the shore, their hiss echoing like thunder. Trojans scream, scattering in terror. The serpents strike Laocoon and his sons, wrapping them in crushing coils, dragging them screaming into the sea. The crowd wails, horror etched into every face. Priam, trembling, declares it a sign. Laocoon has offended the gods. The horse is holy, bring it inside. And with that, the tide breaks. Trojans swarm forward, laying ropes on the horse, straining to move it. The massive wheels grind into the earth. The body lurches, the head sways. They tug and pull, chanting, sweating, rejoicing. The horse creaks and groans but yields, inch by inch, toward the gates. From your place near Odysseus, hidden in shadow, your pulse races. The plan is working. The city is swallowing its doom with its own hands. You almost laugh at the madness of it. The brilliance, the sheer audacity, 10 years of blood, and it will end not with a spear thrust, but with pride and blindness. The Trojans drag the horse through the Scaean gate, their voices raised in triumph. You hear their cheers echo across the plain, carried even to the Greek fleet hidden beyond the island. Fires are lit, sacrifices made. The horse now stands inside the walls of Troy, looming above the rooftops like a watchful god. You crouch in the shadows, heart hammering, breath shallow. Tonight, the waiting will end. Tonight, you will crawl into the belly of the beast, into the dark hollow that smells of pine and pitch. Tonight, the trap will spring. And as the sun sinks behind Troy's towers, as the city prepares to celebrate, you whisper a thought you dare not speak aloud. After 10 long years, Troy is doomed, and you are standing on the threshold of its fall. The great wooden horse creaks and groans as the Trojans drag it through the gates, its vast body swaying above the cheering crowd. You crouch low, pressed against the hollow planks, your heart hammering. Every sound is amplified in the dark. The scrape of ropes, the chant of straining men, the muffled roar of thousands of voices. You dare not move, dare not even breathe too deeply, lest some sharp-eared Trojan suspect the truth. Sweat runs down your back, and the pine pitch stings your nose. The air inside is thick, suffocating, but you endure. The Trojans swarm around the horse, their faces flushed with triumph. From tiny cracks in the wood, you glimpse flashes of their celebration. Children laughing as they pat the polished flanks, women tossing garlands of flowers onto the wheels, priests sprinkling holy water and chanting prayers to Athena. Their joy is raw, wild, like a fever breaking after years of dread. They believe the war is over. They believe the gods have delivered them victory. But the horse stirs unease as well. Even through the cheering, you hear mutters of doubt. It is too large. It is too strange. Why would the Greeks leave such a treasure? You see faces creased with worry, eyes darting suspiciously toward the hollow belly. Fear trembles in their voices, though pride quickly smothers it. They want to believe. They need to believe. 10 years of war has broken their bodies and spirits. Hope, however fragile, is sweeter than caution. And yet, not everyone is silent. Cassandra, daughter of Priam, prophetess cursed to speak truth no one believes, steps forward. Her hair is wild, her eyes burning with desperate clarity. She cries out, her voice shrill above the din. Fools, do not bring death into your walls. That horse is filled with fire, filled with swords, filled with doom. Burn it, break it, cast it into the sea. The crowd falls silent for a heartbeat. You freeze, every muscle tense. Her words strike too close. Her eyes seem to pierce the wood and meet yours. You feel exposed, vulnerable, as if the entire city will suddenly turn on the horse and tear it apart. But then the laughter begins. Trojans scoff, shake their heads, dismiss her cries as madness. They have heard Cassandra's prophecies before, warnings of danger, visions of ruin, all ignored. Her truth has become a curse. She is always right, and always disbelieved. She screams louder, clawing at her hair, her voice breaking with frustration. But the crowd turns away, muttering of omens, of gods, of triumph. Priam raises his hand, his old voice quivering with authority. Enough. The gods have spoken. The horse is ours. And with that, Cassandra's cries are swallowed by the roar of celebration. You exhale slowly, relief mingling with dread. Saved by disbelief, spared by scorn. Yet her words echo in your mind, sharp and undeniable. She has seen the truth. She knows what waits in the shadows of this beast, and though no one listens, you cannot shake the shiver her prophecy leaves in your bones. As the horse lurches deeper into the city, more voices rise in protest. Some elders mutter that it is folly, that the Greeks are too cunning to leave such a gift. Others argue that even if it is harmless, it takes up space, towers ominously over the rooftops. But their doubts are drowned out by the tide of triumph. Young men boast that they have captured the greatest prize of the war. Women sing hymns to Athena, praising her for delivering victory. Children dance, their laughter shrill and pure. Laocoon's death has sealed it. His warnings, his spear thrust, the echo within the horse, all were silenced by the sea serpent's coils. The memory of that horror twists the Trojans' minds. If the gods struck him down, then surely his words were false. Surely the horse is sacred. Surely to reject it would invite divine wrath. Superstition triumphs over caution. You peer again through the cracks, and see the horse's shadow stretch across Troy's streets. Its presence is immense, unnatural, dominating the city square. Priests bow before it, chanting hymns. Citizens circle it with torches, garlands, and wine. They place offerings at its feet, fruit, bread, carved figurines. You hear their voices rising in prayer, praise to Athena, praise for victory, praise for peace. Inside, the heat grows unbearable. The sun bakes the planks. The air grows thick with sweat and pitch. Men shift uncomfortably, armor clinking, breaths ragged. A whisper moves through the cramped space. What if they do not sleep tonight? What if they guard the horse too closely? Odysseus silences them with a hiss. His voice, low and calm, cuts through the panic. Trust the plan. Trust the night. Outside, the celebrations swell. Trumpets blare. Drums pound. Songs echo through the streets. For the first time in a decade, the Trojans feast without fear. They roast oxen, pour wine until it spills onto the dust, dance in wild circles. Firelight flickers on their faces. Laughter bursts from their throats. Joy erupts unchecked. You hear it all through the wooden walls, and it gnaws at you. They are celebrating life while you crouch inside death. The sun sinks, and the sky turns purple, then black. Stars prick the heavens, and the moon casts a pale glow over Troy. The horse stands silent in the square, towering above the city, its belly filled with men holding their breath. Outside, the Trojans sing themselves into stupor. The smell of roasted meat drifts through the cracks, mingling with the sour tang of spilled wine. The noise grows wilder, then softer, then slurred. One by one, voices fade, drums fall silent, torches sputter. Laughter turns to snores. Inside, the silence is deafening. You sit in the dark, heart pounding, ears straining. Every creak of wood, every cough, every shuffle feels like thunder. Sweat drips into your eyes, stinging. The air is stifling, each breath thick and shallow. Time stretches endlessly, minutes crawling like years. You clutch your sword, fingers slick with sweat, waiting for the signal. And yet, amid the stillness, Cassandra's voice lingers in your memory. Her screams echo in your skull. Fools! Do not bring death into your walls. You shiver despite the heat. She is right. You know she is right. The Trojans will not wake tomorrow as victors. They will wake to fire, if they wake at all. But you are no longer just a soldier. You are a shadow inside a god, a whisper inside a lie, a spark waiting to ignite. And as the city of Troy sleeps in drunken joy, you realize the truth. The war is over, though no one yet knows it. Tonight, the horse is silent. Tomorrow, the city will burn. Night settles over Troy like a velvet shroud. The fires in the streets burn low, dwindling to embers. The revelry that shook the walls only hours ago has collapsed into silence broken by snores. The clink of fallen cups, the occasional bark of a dog. Above the city, the stars shine with pitiless clarity. The horse, massive and still, looms in the square, casting its long shadow across sleeping bodies sprawled on steps and courtyards. Inside, you crouch in darkness, pressed against the curved planks of the belly. The air is thick, stifling, heavy with the mingled breath of men packed too close. Every heartbeat drums in your ears. Every creak of wood feels like thunder. You feel sweat bead on your brow and drip down your spine. The pitch burns your nostrils. The stale heat claws at your lungs. 10 years of war have hardened you to discomfort. But this is suffocation in silence. Odysseus is among you, steady as stone. He whispers commands when men shift restlessly. Still, quiet, patience. His voice is low, calm, unshakable. You marvel at him, how he can sit so composed when all around him men tremble with nerves, clutching their swords as if to draw them early. You draw your own closer, feeling the weight of bronze across your palm. It is both comfort and curse. Through a narrow crack, you glimpse the city. Torches gutter in the streets. Shadows of sleeping men and women lie sprawled across the square. You hear a soft moan as a drunkard turns in his sleep. Then nothing. The silence is thick, as though the city itself holds its breath. The hours creep. You lose track of time. Sweat trickles into your eyes. Your legs cramp. Your back aches. Your mouth is dry. You long for air, for space, for freedom. Doubt gnaws at you. What if they discover us before the signal? What if the fleet has not returned? What if the gods themselves betray us? You shake the thoughts away, clench your jaw, and focus on Odysseus's promise. Trust the night. Suddenly a faint sound pierces the silence. A whistle, long, low, sharp. The agreed signal. Your heart leaps. You strain to hear more. Then, through the cracks, you catch sight of a torch, flickering on the distant shore beyond the walls. Another signal, this time from the fleet. They have returned. The Greeks are here. Odysseus stirs. His hand finds the hidden latch carved into the horse's flank. He waits, motionless, listening. The city sleeps. No sound stirs except the rustle of night wind. With a slow, careful push, he eases the hatch open. It creaks faintly, and you freeze, sure the noise will rouse the city. But no voice calls out, no alarm is raised. The hatch swings wider. Cool night air rushes in, sweet and sharp after hours of suffocation. You gulp it down like wine. One by one the warriors slip out. You follow, sliding down the rope into the silent square. Your boots strike stone softly. You crouch low, heart racing, sword at your side. Around you the others gather, shadows in the moonlight. They move like ghosts, silent, disciplined. Odysseus leads, his eyes gleaming with firelight. The city is still. You see the faces of Trojans sleeping peacefully, unaware of doom crouching among them. For a heartbeat, pity stabs at you. Children curl against their mothers. Drunkards snore with cups in hand. Guards slouch against walls, their spears fallen from their grasp. You wonder if Cassandra dreamed this moment, if her eyes burned with visions of Greeks spilling into the streets. Odysseus raises his hand. You move, silent as wolves. You race through the streets toward the gates. The night swallows your footsteps. The city is vast, but you know the path. Scouted, memorized, rehearsed. Your lungs burn with urgency, your eyes darting for any sign of waking Trojans. A dog lifts its head, growls low, but a quick thrust silences it. You shiver at the sound. sharp and final. At the gates, you find the guards asleep, their helmets tipped forward, their spears clattering softly to the ground. For a moment you marvel at their carelessness. 10 years of war, and tonight, the night of their supposed victory, they have abandoned vigilance. Fate itself seems to hand you the keys. With swift hands, you cut the ropes, unbar the massive doors. The hinges groan, but the city is too deep in drunken slumber to hear. Beyond the walls, the plain stretches, silver, under moonlight, and there, dark shapes rising on the shore. The Greek fleet returned. Silent oars cut through the water, sails furled, ships gliding like predators. Your heart leaps. They are here. The plan lives. You raise the torch, wave it high. The signal. A flame against the night. From the shore, torches flare in reply. The fleet has seen you. The army surges forward, their shadows spilling across the plain. You hear the faint clash of weapons, the low rumble of thousands of feet. The tide is coming. Odysseus turns, his voice a whisper but sharp as a blade. Now, kill the guards, secure the gates. You move swiftly. Blades flash in the dark, and the guards fall without a cry. Blood pools silently at their feet. You pull the bodies aside, your breath ragged, your hands trembling. There is no turning back now. The gates swing wide. The Greek army pours in. Men you thought gone forever. Agamemnon, Menelaus, Diomedes, stride through, faces hard with purpose. Their soldiers follow, wave after wave, swords drawn, shields ready. The plain erupts in thunder as thousands flood the city, their footsteps shaking the earth. The silence shatters. The Trojan stirs, blinking in confusion, then screams. Another wakes, shouting an alarm. Doors fly open, cries echo down the streets. The city, drugged with celebration, jolts awake in terror, but it is too late. The Greeks are inside. Odysseus raises his sword, his voice cutting through the chaos. Now we finish it. Burn the city, leave nothing standing. And with that, the slaughter begins. You move through the streets, torch in hand, heart hammering. The night explodes with fire and screams. Houses ignite, roofs collapse, women wail, men stumble half-armed into the streets only to be cut down. The city that laughed only hours ago now drowns in chaos. Troy has opened its gates to death, and you are among its shadows, sword red, torch blazing, eyes burning with a mixture of triumph and dread. The trap has sprung, and nothing can stop it now. The scream that cracks the night is like a stone hurled into still water. One cry, then another, then 100 more, rippling outward until the whole city shakes with it. Troy is awake, and Troy is terrified. The clatter of weapons echoes down alleys. The pounding of feet rattles doors. The clash of bronze shudders through the square. And still, above it all, the horse looms, the silent monster that carried you into the heart of the city. You press forward through narrow streets, the torch in your hand throwing wild shadows across walls of plaster and timber. Smoke already curls into the air as roofs ignite, the dry wood catching like kindling after years of sun. The heat prickles your skin, and the smell, sharp pitch, burning grain, the sickly sweetness of flesh, stings your nose until your eyes water. You want to cough, but dare not. Every sense tells you the city is collapsing, and you are one of the hands pulling it down. The Greeks surge around you, their voices rising in war cries. For Greece, for Helen, for the gods. The shouts are raw, ragged, wild with a decade's frustration. They crash into Trojan households like a tide, dragging men from beds, striking down fathers who stumble half-dressed into the street. The Trojans fight back where they can, snatching spears from walls, drawing swords long unused, but they are too slow, too few, too scattered. Surprise is a blade sharper than bronze. Through the smoke, you glimpse Priam's palace rising in the distance, its high columns glowing orange in the flicker of flames. The king's halls still stand untouched, but you know it will not last. Already the tide of Greeks is surging in that direction, eager to tear the heart from the city. But before the palace falls, the rest of Troy must burn. You turn a corner and find yourself face to face with a Trojan guard, his eyes wide with shock, his spear trembling in his hands. He thrusts wildly, and you barely dodge, the tip grazing your arm. Pain flares hot, but you grip your sword tighter and lunge. Your blade finds his side, his eyes widen further, then glaze. He crumples silently. You step back, your chest heaving, your sword slick. For a moment you just stare at him, one more life in a city already drowning in death. Then you force yourself to move. There is no time for hesitation. All around you, the horse's prophecy unfolds. You hear women wailing as they clutch their children, only to be dragged away. You hear the cries of infants, sharp and piercing, cut short by merciless hands. You hear the roar of fire devouring homes, the crash of beams splitting, the crackle of clay jars bursting in heat. You hear the pounding of your own heart, louder than all of it. The gates of Troy, once shut in defiance, now gape wide, and the Greek army pours through them in endless waves. You see them flooding the city square, their armor gleaming red in the firelight. They spread like wildfire, each alley a vein filled with blades, each courtyard a trap for the fleeing. Troy is no longer a fortress. It is a slaughterhouse. You pass the temple of Athena, its steps crowded with desperate Trojans. They kneel, hands raised, voices pleading for the goddess to save them. They cling to her altar, begging for protection. For a moment your steps falter. Even after all these years, something inside you recoils at the thought of striking men who bow before a god. But then another Greek barrels past you, his torch sweeping high, and the temple bursts into flame. The screams of the worshippers rise, then fall. You force yourself to keep moving. In the chaos, Cassandra appears again. You see her at the threshold of the temple, her hair wild, her arms raised to the sky. She shrieks, her voice cracking with fury. I told you this would come." Her words cut through the night, ragged but clear. The Greeks grab her, binding her arms, dragging her away, even as she fights and spits curses. Her eyes meet yours for an instant, burning with a truth too heavy to bear. You look away. The Greeks drive deeper into the city. Flames climb higher. Smoke blots out the stars. You stumble through the haze, choking, eyes stinging, lungs burning. Shapes blur, friend and foe alike, until all you know is motion, swinging your sword at shadows, clutching your torch like a lifeline. The ground is slick beneath your feet, wet with blood and wine. At the Scaean gate, more Trojans rally, their shields locked, their spears bristling. For a heartbeat, they hold. Their line pushes back the Greeks, their shouts rising with desperate courage. You watch as Menelaus himself charges them, his face twisted with rage, his sword flashing. The line buckles, splinters, collapses. The Trojans scatter, trampled beneath iron-shod feet. The gates remain open, the flood unbroken. You hear voices in the distance, Greek captains barking orders, their commands carried through the smoke. Burn the ships in the harbour. Spare no one in the palace. Take them alive, the women, the children. The words rattle in your skull. This is not just conquest. This is erasure. The horse stands behind you in the square, its shadow flickering in the firelight. For a moment you turn back to look at it. Silent, massive, unmoving. It is no longer needed, yet it feels alive, as if watching the destruction it birthed. You shiver, wondering if someday men will speak of the horse as if it were a god itself, the god of Troy's ruin. Ahead, the palace looms closer, its golden doors shining faintly even through the smoke. You hear the clash of steel at its gates, the screams of defenders cut down, the crash of doors splintering. The Greeks are inside, tearing down the last sanctuary of the king. Priam's fate awaits, and with it, the final death of Troy. But you linger for a moment in the streets surrounded by fire and ruin. You see a mother huddled in a doorway, her children clutched to her chest. You see an old man stumbling with a staff, his robe aflame, his eyes blank with shock. You see a boy no older than 12 swing a kitchen knife at a Greek soldier, before being struck down. You see humanity stripped bare, desperate, terrified, undone. And in that moment you realize, Troy does not fall all at once. It falls piece by piece, each scream, each torch, each life cut short. The city dies in 1,000 moments, each one breaking it further. And you, sword in hand, torch in grasp, are one of the hands tearing it apart. Above, the flames leap higher, painting the night red. The city groans like a wounded beast. The walls that stood for 10 years tremble with the roar of fire. The war is ending, yes. But in its ending, it has become something worse than war. It has become annihilation. You press on toward the palace, your breath ragged, your eyes burning, your heart hammering with a mix of triumph and dread. Behind you, Troy burns. Ahead of you, Troy bleeds. And all around you, Troy dies. The palace looms before you now, its towers framed in fire, its wide steps slick with blood. For 10 long years, you've seen it only from afar, its proud roofline mocking the Greek camp from behind impenetrable walls. Tonight, those same walls glow orange, their stone faces shuddering in the heat. Tonight, the seat of Priam is no longer untouchable. Tonight, the heart of Troy beats its last. You force your way through the chaos at the gates. Greek soldiers push ahead with shields raised, their torches swinging wild arcs. Trojan defenders, desperate and broken, rally on the steps. They fight with spears, with swords, with whatever their trembling hands can grip. A young man swings a hunting bow, loosing arrows blindly from the shadows of the columns. An old servant staggers forward with a kitchen cleaver, his thin arms shaking. All are cut down. The Greeks are relentless, their bronze a tide that cannot be stopped. The great doors, carved of cedar and bound with gold, resist for only moments. Rams smash into them, splinters fly, and with one final groan, they collapse inward. A roar rises from the Greeks as they surge inside. You stumble with them, swept forward by the press of bodies, your torch jerking above your head. Inside, the palace is a storm of noise. Priam's halls, once filled with music and feasts, echo with screams and clash of arms. Statues topple, columns shatter, tapestries rip, as men seize anything of value. Fire licks along draperies, climbs carved beams, races across cedar ceilings. The air is heavy with smoke, with sweat, with the iron tang of blood. You push through the press and find yourself in the central courtyard. There, beneath a high, open sky, darkened by smoke, you see Priam. The old king kneels at the altar of Zeus, his frail hands clutching the statue's feet. His white beard trembles as he prays, his voice broken, yet steady in its faith. Around him his daughters wail, their robes torn, their hair loose. Hecuba, his queen, clings to him, her face hollow with grief. For a moment the sight stills the Greeks. Even warriors drunk on vengeance hesitate at the image of the old king bowing before the god. But then Pyrrhus strides forward, the son of Achilles, tall and fierce, his armor gleaming in the firelight. He has his father's eyes, cold, unflinching, and his father's rage. He carries a spear still wet with Trojan blood. Priam lifts his gaze, his voice trembling but strong. You kill me at the altar. You defile the god's own house. May the gods see your crime and strike you down. His words cut through the hall, sharp with dignity. You feel a shiver ripple through the men around you. But Pyrrhus does not falter. He laughs, a short, bitter sound. You speak of gods, old man. Where were they when my father fell? Where were they when Achilles died by your prince's arrow? His face twists with fury. I will give you the answer now. Before anyone can move, his spear plunges. It pierces the frail chest, and Priam crumples against the altar. His blood runs down the steps, staining the feet of Zeus. A gasp rises from Greeks and Trojans alike. The king of Troy is dead. You stand frozen, your breath caught, your stomach twisting. You've seen death before, 1,000 times on the field. But this is different. This is the end of a line, the breaking of a crown, the silencing of a city's voice. Priam's death is not just one more life taken. It is the unmaking of Troy itself. The daughters scream, their voices roar. Hecuba collapses over her husband's body, her hands clutching his torn robe. Cassandra shrieks louder than all, her curse echoing through the courtyard. You will pay, in blood. No victory lasts forever. Her words make even the Greeks flinch, though they bind her quickly, dragging her away. Pyrrhus wipes his spear, his eyes gleaming, his chest heaving with satisfaction. To him, this is justice for his father. To you, it feels like something else, like sacrilege, like the gods themselves will not forgive this. But the slaughter does not pause. Greeks surge deeper into the palace, their torches igniting tapestries, their hands seizing treasure, their blades cutting down servants and guards alike. You follow, though your feet are heavy. Every step feels like walking deeper into a tomb. The corridors are choked with smoke, the floors slick with blood. Statues topple, jewels scatter, golden bowls clatter as looters fill their arms. You see paintings slashed, carved doors shattered, sacred relics smashed underfoot. Nothing is spared. In one hall, you stumble upon Andromache, Hector's widow. She kneels, clutching her young son, Astyanax, to her chest. Her eyes are wide, her voice shaking as she begs for mercy. The boy clings to her, his small arms tight around her neck. For a heartbeat, you want to turn away, but another Greek seizes the child, wrenching him free. Andromache screams, falling forward, her hands clawing the air. You hear the order, no heir of Hector shall live. The boy is lifted, flung from the battlements, his cry cuts short in the night. Your stomach heaves, bile rising in your throat. You grip your sword tighter, but your hand trembles. You tell yourself this is war, this is vengeance, this is justice. But the words feel hollow. You have become not a soldier but an executioner. The palace groans as flames consume it. Beams crash, roofs collapse, walls split with sharp cracks. The heat drives you back into the courtyard, where fire leaps high into the night. Painting the smoke red, Greeks pour out, their arms laden with loot, their eyes wild with triumph. Behind them the palace of Priam crumbles, the heart of Troy collapsing into ash and ember. You stand among them, your chest heaving, your eyes burning with smoke and grief. Around you, the city still screams, still burns, still fights. But you know, in this moment, that it is finished. Priam is dead, his sons scattered, his palace fallen. Troy may still stand in stone, but its spirit has been crushed. The Greeks raise their swords in triumph, their voices thundering in a chant. Troy is fallen, Troy is ours. The sound shakes the night, louder than fire, louder than scream, and for the first time in 10 years, you feel the weight of the war lift, only to be replaced by something heavier, the knowledge of what you have done. The palace burns behind you, its flames a beacon seen for miles. The city that once glittered with gold, now glows with fire. The air tastes of smoke and sorrow. You whisper to yourself, barely audible, this is victory, this is ruin. And you march on, deeper into Troy, knowing there is still more to burn, more to kill, more to break. The night is far from over, and the city has further yet to fall. The palace collapses behind you in roaring flames, but the slaughter continues. You step back into the streets of Troy, where chaos reigns more fiercely than any battle on the plain ever did. This is no ordered clash of armies, it is madness, pure and unrelenting. Shadows dart across alleys, screams echo from doorways, fire devours rooftops. Troy, proud Troy, is no longer a city, it is a labyrinth of fire and fear. You grip your sword tighter, though your arm feels heavy, as if weighed with stone. Around you, Greek soldiers surge like a flood through every street. Torches blaze in their hands, smoke billows behind them, bronze armor gleams in the orange glow. Their shouts mingle with the wails of the Trojans, creating a sound like the very earth crying out. The trap is sprung, and now the belly of the horse empties its venom into every corner. Men leap from houses, desperate to defend their homes, but they are cut down within breaths. Some fight bravely, their eyes burning with fury, but their weapons are few, their armor scarce. The Greeks have blades and shields, discipline and fury. The Trojans have only desperation. You pass a marketplace, its stalls overturned. Baskets of figs and grain spilled into the dirt, trampled beneath the rush of feet. A man lies face down among the smashed pots, his hands still clutching a merchant's scale. Beside him a woman shrieks as a child is torn from her arms. The child's cries pierce your ears, sharp as a spear. before fading into the roar of the crowd. The air is thick with smoke and ash. You cough, your throat raw, your eyes watering. Still, you push forward, following Odysseus as he carves a path through the streets. His face is grim, his sword red, his eyes fixed on the gates of Troy's temples and shrines. Leave no sanctuary standing, he commands. The gods will not save them tonight. And so you watch as temples fall. At the shrine of Apollo, priests lift their arms in prayer, chanting for protection. A torch is flung, and the sacred curtains ignite. Flames climb the walls, swallowing the statue of the god. The priests scream as the roof collapses, their voices rising in a final hymn before silence takes them. You stumble back, heart hammering, as smoke rolls outward like a wave. At the temple of Aphrodite, women cling to the goddess's altar, their faces streaked with tears. They cry for mercy, for love, for deliverance. Menelaus himself storms the steps, his sword raised, his eyes burning with vengeance. You see him hesitate, just for a heartbeat, as his gaze falls on Helen. There she stands, radiant even in fear, her robe torn, her hair loose, her eyes wide. The cause of the war, the face that launched 1,000 ships. His sword trembles, his jaw clenched. You cannot hear his words, but you see his lips move. She answers, her voice soft, her hands lifted in plea. The sword lowers. He seizes her arm, pulling her into his grasp. She is not slain. She is claimed. You stumble onward, leaving the temple behind, your mind a storm of conflicting thoughts. Is this justice? Is this mercy? Is this victory? The line blurs until you can no longer tell. The Greeks press deeper, their torches spreading fire to every corner. Roofs crash, beams splinter, sparks rain down like fiery hail. The night sky glows red, stars swallowed by smoke. The smell is unbearable, burning wood, burning flesh, the stench of death. Your stomach churns, bile rising, but you swallow it down. You cannot falter now. Through the smoke, you glimpse figures moving with desperate speed. Trojans fleeing, clutching what little they can. Some carry children, some carry idols, some carry nothing but hope. You see Aeneas among them, his old father Anchises on his back, his young son clutched at his side. His face is grim, his stride unbroken. He does not fight, he flees. You know somehow that his story will not end here, that he will carry Troy's ashes to another shore, another destiny. But tonight, he vanishes into the shadows, one spark of survival in a sea of death. The slaughter continues. Greeks drag women from their homes, bind them in chains, drive them into the streets like cattle. Some resist, clawing, screaming, biting. They are struck down. Others go silent, their eyes hollow, their steps slow. Children wail, their cries sharp as broken glass, before being silenced by harsh hands. The fate of Troy is not just death, but captivity. Its people are trophies as much as its gold. You reach another square where the horse's shadow stretches long and dark across the flames. Around it, Greeks pile treasures looted from the city, chests of jewels, golden goblets, silver plate, fine fabrics, weapons studded with gems. They heap it high, laughing, shouting, boasting. This is victory, one cries, holding aloft a necklace ripped from a woman's throat. This is the price of 10 years. Another roars, waving a goblet filled with stolen wine. Their laughter grates in your ears, hollow and cruel. Odysseus does not laugh. He stands at the edge of the square, his face set in shadow, his eyes unreadable. He watches the flames rise, the people scream, the treasure pile higher. For once you see no smile, no sly gleam, only silence. You wonder if he feels the weight of what he has wrought, or if he hides it as skillfully as he hides everything. The night stretches on, endless. You lose count of the streets you've walked, the doors you've kicked down, the faces you've seen vanish into shadow. Your body moves on instinct now, swing, step, torch, thrust, while your mind drifts above, watching as if from a distance. You see Troy fall piece by piece, and you wonder if anyone will ever tell the truth of it. Will they call it glory? Will they call it justice? Or will they whisper the word you already feel in your bones? horror. Dawn creeps at last, pale and cold against the smoke. The fires still burn, but the city is broken. The streets are littered with bodies, the air heavy with ash. The Greeks gather in the squares, their armor scorched, their faces streaked with soot and blood. Some cheer, raising their swords high, their voices hoarse with triumph. Others sit in silence, staring at nothing, their eyes hollow. You stand among them, your torch finally burned to ash, your sword heavy in your hand. Your body aches, your lungs burn, your soul feels hollow. Troy has fallen, the war is over, yet there is no joy in your heart. Only silence. Around you, the survivors are herded into groups. Women weeping, children clutching their mothers, old men shuffling with heads bowed. They will be slaves now, their freedom lost forever. You meet their eyes, and feel a weight press into your chest. They look at you, not with hatred, not even with fear, but with something worse, despair. The horse still stands, looming above the ruins, its wooden body untouched by flame. It is a monument now, not of victory, but of deceit. You stare at it, your breath shallow, your mind weary. Someday, you know, men will tell its story in song. They will speak of cunning, of triumph, of Greek glory, but you will remember the truth. You will remember the screams, the flames, the faces. And as the first light of dawn breaks over the smouldering ruins, you whisper to yourself, as if confessing a secret to the wind, "This is no victory, this is only fire." The gates of Troy stand open, no longer the proud barriers that once defied an entire coalition of kings. They gape like a wound in stone, their massive timbers splintered, their bronze fittings darkened with soot. Through them, the tide of Greeks has poured all night, and even now, as the first pale light of dawn washes the sky, warriors still stream in. Their sandals kick up dust, their swords are sticky with blood, their shields dented and blackened by fire. Behind them, on the plain, the fleet waits, masts bristling, sails furled, ready to carry their plunder home. You stand in the shadow of those gates, your breath harsh in your throat, watching the flood. There is no order, no neat line of march. The Greeks come in as victors, but they do not move like soldiers. They move like predators in the last frenzy of a kill. Some charge into the city with torches still blazing, eager for more blood, more loot, more destruction. Others stagger out, their arms full of treasure, goblets, shields, robes, statuettes wrenched from shrines. Some drag prisoners, women bound with ropes, children screaming, old men shoved along with spears prodding their backs. The gates are the mouth of a beast, swallowing and spewing life and death in equal measure. And you, caught in its shadow, feel both exhilaration and dread. 10 years you've stared at these gates, cursed them, dreamed of tearing them down. Now they are open, and the city beyond them is yours. But the sight is not glory, it is ruin. The plain outside the walls is already filling with spoils. Piles of loot grow higher, bronze cauldrons, golden bowls, carpets heavy with embroidery, ivory inlaid boxes. Women sit weeping beside them, their wrists bound, their faces streaked with tears and ash. Children cling to them, wide-eyed, too shocked to cry. Greek soldiers swagger among them, boasting, bargaining, laughing with the madness of men who have seen too much blood and now drown themselves in victory. Odysseus passes you, his face dark with soot, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion etched in his features. He pauses, his gaze sweeping the gates, the plain, the flood of men. For a heartbeat, you think you see hesitation, a flicker of recognition that this is not triumph, but slaughter. But then his jaw tightens, and he moves on, barking orders to secure the prisoners, to guard the treasure. Strategy still binds him where conscience falters. Menelaus appears next, dragging Helen through the gates. Her robe is torn, her hair tangled, her face pale, but still radiant. The soldiers gape at her as she passes, whispering as though seeing a goddess. Menelaus's grip on her arm is iron, his jaw clenched. You hear his voice, low but bitter. "You return to me now, not as a wife, but as spoil." Helen's eyes flicker toward you as she stumbles past, and for a heartbeat you see a depth there. Sorrow, resignation. Something you cannot name. She does not resist, nor does she plead. She walks like a woman carrying a burden too vast to put into words. Inside the city, the fighting dwindles, but the cries do not stop. From the square you hear women shrieking as they are dragged from temples, priests howling as sacred relics are smashed. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks madly, then falls silent. Somewhere else, a child's thin voice wails until it too is cut short. The sounds tangle with the roar of fire, the groan of collapsing beams, the crash of statues shattering. Troy does not die quietly. You move deeper into the gate, stepping over bodies sprawled across the threshold. Some are Trojan guards, their shields still clutched in stiff fingers. Others are Greek soldiers, cut down in the frenzy of night. Death does not choose sides in fire. You pick your way carefully, your boots slipping on blood. The air stinks of it, iron, smoke, sweat, and something darker that clings to your tongue. Beyond the gate, the streets are choked with corpses. Men, women, children lie where they fell, their faces frozen in terror, their limbs twisted. The sight is too much, and yet you cannot look away. Each face could have been you, had the war gone another way. Each could be Greek instead of Trojan. The difference is only chance, only fate. At the base of the wall, you find a heap of shields. Trojans stripped of weapons before being cut down. Their spears lie broken, their helmets dented. Among them, you see the crest of Hector, once the city's pride. His body is long gone, dragged by Achilles months before, but his memory lingers in this pile of ruin. You bow your head briefly, though you dare not let anyone see. Hector fought with honor. His city dies in deceit. The Greeks push further into the ruins, and you follow. Everywhere you look, the gates are being used not as defense but as funnel treasure out, slaves out, fire in. The city is being emptied like a vessel, poured onto the plain, until nothing remains but ash. You pause at the temple of Poseidon, built near the walls. Its massive columns still stand, though flames lick at their bases. Inside you see a group of Trojans huddled, clutching the altar. They cry out, pleading for sanctuary. For a heartbeat, the Greeks hesitate. Even in fury, there are moments when men remember the gods. But Pyrrhus storms forward, his spear flashing. No sanctuary for them, he roars. The altar is defiled, the priests cut down, the walls smeared with blood. You turn away, your stomach twisting. The sun climbs higher, its light mingling with firelight, turning the smoke into a golden haze. From the battlements, you see the full horror. Troy sprawled beneath the morning sun, burning from end to end. Roofs collapse in clouds of sparks, towers topple, walls crack and crumble. The river Scamander runs red, its waters choked with bodies. The harbour is filled with wreckage, ships overturned, masts snapped, men drowned in shallow waves. The whole city seems to groan, a dying beast collapsing into dust. The gates remain open, yawning wide, until nothing more comes through. By midday the flood slows. The city is broken, its people bound, its treasure plundered. The Greeks gather outside the walls, their spoils piled high, their captives lined in rows. Some cheer, lifting their swords to the sky, voices hoarse with triumph. Others collapse in silence, staring blankly, their bodies spent, their souls empty. You stand at the edge of it all, your sword heavy, your lungs roar from smoke. The gates gape behind you, the plain stretches before you, the fleet waits beyond. The war is over, the city has fallen, yet you feel no triumph, only weight. The gates of Troy will be remembered, you know, not for their strength, not for their defiance, but for this night, for opening wide, to let in ruin. And someday, men will tell the story of how they fell. They will speak of cunning, of glory, of divine justice, but you who walked through them will remember the truth. The gates of Troy did not fall, they were opened from within, and the city that once stood eternal is gone forever. The city groans beneath you like a living thing. Every alley you pass through is clogged with smoke, every doorway spills out firelight and screams. The slaughter has become relentless. No longer even battle, but a tide of killing that surges without pause. The Trojans have no army left, no formations, no commands. They fight in pockets, in doorways, on rooftops, husbands with hunting spears, sons with kitchen knives, even children hurling stones from windows, and each is met with Greek steel, faster, sharper, more merciless. You see a boy of no more than 12 dart from an alley, with a sling. His stone clatters against a soldier's helmet, and for a heartbeat the Greek reels. Then the soldier's sword flashes, and the boy crumples. His mother's wail cuts the air like a blade. She hurls herself forward, but she too is struck down. You freeze, your stomach twisting. You remind yourself, this is war, this is justice, this is vengeance. But the words taste hollow. Odysseus pushes past you, his sword slick, his face set. He does not pause, does not falter, does not allow himself the weight of pity. His voice is steady. Keep moving. The city must be cleansed. Cleansed. Such a cold word for what unfolds. You follow, because there is no choice, but the images sear into you. Hands grasping, eyes pleading, blood pooling. In the marketplace square, the massacre deepens. Trojan men gather, forming a last desperate defense around their families. Shields scavenged from fallen comrades lock together, spears bristle outward. For a moment, they hold their line, pushing back Greeks who charge too recklessly. You hear the crack of wood, the scream of men impaled, the roar of defiance. They will not surrender their wives and children, not while breath remains. The Greeks answer with fury. Archers step forward, loosing volleys into the packed defenders. The air hisses with arrows, and bodies collapse in rows. The line buckles, shatters. The survivors are cut down where they stand, their families dragged from behind them. A child clings to her father's hand, screaming as soldiers wrench her away. The father's eyes go wide, then glassy, as a spear drives through his chest. Your vision blurs with smoke and horror. You turn aside, gagging, your stomach twisting with bile. You grip the hilt of your sword as if it could anchor you to something solid. You whisper to yourself, if I drop it, I am nothing. If I drop it, I drown. Not all Greeks revel in the carnage. You see some hesitate, some glance away as women beg at their feet. One soldier lifts a boy onto his shoulders, sparing him from the chaos, hiding him among the captives instead of striking him down. Another pushes aside loot to carry a wounded comrade. Yet these small mercies are drowned in the flood. The voices of compassion are whispers. The roar of slaughter is thunder. You turn a corner and stumble into another vision of horror. A temple packed with refugees. They kneel at the altar, their voices raised in prayer, tears streaking soot-stained faces. They cling to idols of bronze and marble, pressing their lips to cold stone. They believe the gods will save them, that Athena or Apollo will intervene. But the Greeks swarm in, torches are thrown, flames climb tapestries, smoke curls against the roof. The idols glow red in the fire, their faces warping. The people's prayers turn to scream. The soldiers strike, cutting down those who resist, dragging others away. The sacred is no longer sanctuary. You stumble back into the street, coughing, eyes burning. The city itself seems to weep. Water from broken cisterns flows through alleys, mingling with blood, turning the ground to mud. Dogs howl, trapped in burning courtyards. Horses shriek from stables, their manes aflame as they bolt through the streets. The air is a cacophony of agony, a symphony of ruin. Somewhere above, Cassandra's voice rises again. You hear her shrieking from a rooftop as she is dragged away, her arms bound, her face streaked with ash and tears. I told you this night would come. Her words ring across the burning city, ignored yet undeniable. You wonder if even the gods hear her now, if her curse reaches into the smoke-choked sky. The Greeks push onward, deeper, their fury unspent. Agamemnon strides through the streets, his cloak torn but his head held high, his voice commanding, leave no house untouched. The city must burn to its roots. His words fan the flames further. Men throw torches into homes, their laughter harsh. Treasure is ripped from shrines, wine jars smashed open, food seized and devoured. Troy is not merely defeated, it is being erased. You move with them, your body on autopilot, your mind numb. Yet every corner sears you with new images. A girl dragged screaming by her hair, an old man struck down as he shields his grandson, a soldier laughing as he hurls a torch into a nursery. You want to close your eyes, but the fire forces them open. At the harbour, the slaughter reaches new depths. Trojan ships, once proud in their moorings, are aflame, their masts collapsing into the water with a hiss. Men leap into the sea to escape the fire, but arrows rain down, spearing them as they swim. The water turns dark, waves lapping at floating bodies. The smell of salt mixes with blood until you cannot tell them apart. Through it all, the Greeks chant, their voices rising in drunken triumph. Troy is fallen, Troy is ours. The words echo through the ruins, bouncing from walls to walls, mingling with screams. The city that once stood for centuries crumbles in a single night. You pause at the steps of a half-collapsed house, your chest heaving, your sword heavy. Inside, you hear muffled sobs, a family hiding, praying to remain unseen. You stand frozen, torn. Do you call soldiers to drag them out? Do you walk away and pretend you never heard? Your hand trembles on the hilt. For the first time you let it fall. You turn, moving back into the smoke, leaving the house untouched. Perhaps they will live, perhaps not. But for this one choice, you step away from the flood. The dawn grows brighter, the sky paling above the smoke. Yet the fires burn higher, red against the light. The city is unrecognizable. Streets you marched past for 10 years are now rubble and ash. Walls once proud are blackened, towers toppled, courtyards choked with corpses. The Scamander flows sluggish with the weight of the dead. You stumble to the square again, where the horse still stands, looming silent over the ruins. Its wooden body glows in the firelight, its eyes dark and hollow. You cannot look at it without shuddering. It is no longer a trick, it is an omen, a monument to deceit, the god of destruction carved from pine. Around it the Greeks gather their captives. Women huddle together, their eyes blank, their hair singed. Children cry softly, clutching scraps of cloth. Old men stare into nothing, their shoulders bowed. The spoils of war are lined up like trophies, stripped of dignity, waiting to be divided. The victors laugh and jeer, already arguing over who will claim which prize. You sink to the ground, your body shaking, your eyes burning. The war is over. Troy has fallen. But as you stare at the captives, at the flames, at the horse, you feel no victory, only emptiness. You whisper to yourself, barely audible, as the sun rises over the smoking ruins. This is not war. This is ending. The streets of Troy are a graveyard. Every step you take crunches on shards of pottery, splintered wood or bones still warm from life, only hours ago. The air is so thick with smoke it feels like wool in your throat. Every breath a battle. Above, the once proud towers lean like broken teeth against the orange sky. The city that for a decade laughed down at you from its unbroken walls is now a pile. But amid the ruin, there is still life. Life struggling, resisting, refusing to accept the end. Pockets of Trojan warriors gather in courtyards, their faces streaked with ash, their eyes wild. They fight not to win, but to wound, to claw a final scar into the enemy that has devoured them. You see one such group near the temple of Apollo, a dozen men with spears and shields. They charge into a knot of Greeks, their cries shrill with desperation. The clash is brutal, short, merciless. Bronze smashes bronze, shields splinter, men fall screaming. When it ends, the Greeks stand victorious, but half their number lies in blood beside the Trojans. The Greeks call it courage. You call it futility. And yet, as you step past the bodies, you cannot help but feel a strange admiration. Troy is dying, but it dies with teeth bared. You push deeper into the palace district, following the sounds of fighting that still echo among the halls. Here, the ruin is greatest. Walls are scorched, doors torn from their hinges, statues toppled and split. The treasures of kings lie scattered in the dust. Gold necklaces tangled with broken spears, silver cups trampled beneath sandals, ivory carvings cracked in the heat, the wealth of generations reduced to loot, its glory stripped. And then you see him, Priam, the king. He is not seated on a throne, not robed in splendor, not crowned with gold. He is kneeling at the altar of Zeus, his body trembling with age, his beard white as ash. His wife Hecuba clings to him, her face hollow with grief. Around them, daughters wail, their voices shrill in the rising smoke. Cassandra shrieks her prophecy yet again, her words ignored as always. This city dies tonight, and all who mock the gods with it. The Greeks hesitate at the sight. Even in fury, even in fire, something in them falters before the dignity of the old king. For a heartbeat, the slaughter pauses. The clash of steel quiets. The roar of fire dims. Priam lifts his gaze, and his eyes burn with both sorrow and pride. Then Pyrrhus steps forward, the son of Achilles, the image of his father's wrath. His armor gleams red in the firelight, his spear still wet with blood. He strides without hesitation, his jaw set, his eyes cold. You feel the weight of Achilles in him, the same fury, the same merciless strength. Priam's voice rises, trembling but strong. You kill me at the altar. You defile the house of Zeus. May the gods see your crime and curse your name. His words echo in the hall, sharp and fearless. You feel a shiver ripple through the Greeks, but Pyrrhus does not falter. He sneers. You speak of gods, old man. Where were they when Hector fell? Where were they when Achilles died by your prince's hand? If the gods care nothing for us, why should I care for them? He lifts his spear, his voice a roar. I avenge my father. The spear plunges. Priam collapses against the altar, blood spilling down the marble steps. His daughters scream, their voices tearing the air. Hecuba throws herself over his body, her hands clutching his robe. Cassandra's shrieks rise to the rafters, curses hurled at Pyrrhus, at all of you, at the gods themselves. You stand frozen, your breath caught in your chest. You have seen death before, thousands of times, but never like this. This is not the fall of a man. This is the end of a crown, the death of a people, the shattering of an empire. Priam is not just an old king, he is Troy, and Troy lies dead at Zeus's feet. Pyrrhus wipes his spear, his face twisted in triumph. To him, this is justice. To you it feels like sacrilege. You cannot shake the thought that the gods watched, and that they will not forget. The slaughter does not pause. Greeks storm deeper into the palace, torches blazing, treasures are ripped from chests, statues toppled, sacred relics shattered. Andromache, Hector's widow, is dragged screaming into the courtyard, her young son Astyanax clutched in her arms. She begs for mercy, her voice raw, her face streaked with tears. But the soldiers seize the boy, wrenching him from her grasp. No heir of Hector lives, one growls. The child is lifted high, his small arms flailing. For a heartbeat the world holds still. Then the boy is hurled from the battlements. His scream rises, then cuts short. His body falls silent in the dust below. Andromache collapses, her wails tearing through the night. You gag, your stomach twisting, bile burning your throat. You want to look away, but the sight sears into you. This is not war. This is slaughter. The palace groans as fire devours it. Beams crack, ceilings collapse, walls split. You stumble back into the courtyard as flames leap higher, painting the night red. Behind you Priam's body lies still, his daughters wailing, his queen broken. Before you, Greeks roar in triumph, their arms laden with loot, their faces wild. The palace of Priam collapses in a roar of sparks and ash. The heart of Troy is gone. You stagger into the streets, your chest heaving, your eyes burning with smoke and grief. Around you, the slaughter rages on. Women are dragged from doorways, their cries piercing. Children are cut down where they cling to mothers. Old men are struck where they kneel in prayer. Fire consumes every street, every home, every memory. Troy is not just falling, it is being erased. In the square, the horse still stands, its wooden body towering above the ruins. Its eyes glint in the firelight, its flanks glowing red. It is a monster born of cunning, the father of all this ruin. You stare at it, your hands trembling, your sword slick. You wonder if future generations will speak of this night in songs. They will call it victory. They will call it glory. But you know the truth. It is horror. You whisper to yourself, your voice hoarse. Priam is dead. Troy is dead. The words hang in the smoke, heavy, final. And as the night drags on, you march again into the fire, your heart numb, your mind hollow. The slaughter is not finished. Troy has further yet to burn. The palace is ash now, its proud columns collapsed into heaps of glowing rubble. Its treasures scattered in the hands of soldiers who laugh even as the smoke stings their eyes. The roar of its fall echoes long after the last stone crashes to the ground, a sound like a god's sigh. You turn away, coughing, eyes raw, ears ringing, your mind haunted by the vision of Priam bleeding at the altar. His body lies somewhere behind you, lost in ruin, but his absence feels heavier than the walls themselves. The slaughter does not slow, it spreads. With the king gone, the city is leaderless, its resistance shattered. The Trojans who remain fight like cornered wolves, but their fury only hastens their deaths. The Greeks sweep street by street, house by house, dragging out survivors, cutting down any who resist. You push deeper into the city, following the wave of bronze and fire. Every turn reveals a new vision of ruin. In one alley, a group of women kneel in the dust, their hands raised in prayer, their faces wet with tears. Soldiers seize them, binding their wrists, hauling them away like cattle. One cries out for her children, her voice sharp and broken, but the soldiers do not listen. Her pleas are swallowed by the roar of fire. In another courtyard, a band of Trojans makes a last stand around a well. They wield farming tools, hoes, sickles, clubs, against armored Greeks. Their cries are fierce, their swings desperate, but bronze cuts wood, shields crush bone. They fall one by one, until the well is stained red, the water runs dark, poisoned by their blood. You stumble onward, your lungs burning with smoke. Everywhere you look, Troy is unraveling. Walls crack, beams fall, flames climb higher. The streets are littered with corpses, their faces twisted, their bodies sprawled in grotesque silence. Some are Greek, but most are Trojan. Fathers, mothers, children. You force yourself to step over them. Your boots slick, your stomach clenched. The temples burn. The gods are silent. At Athena's shrine, the goddess's statue still stands, her spear raised, her gaze unblinking. But her temple is a furnace, its roof collapsing, its walls blackened. You see Greeks dragging away sacred vessels, their laughter echoing. You see a priest fall to his knees before the statue, his voice cracking in prayer. A soldier's sword flashes. The priest's body slumps, and blood spatters the goddess's feet. Still, she does not move. Her stone eyes watch as her people perish, unblinking, uncaring. You feel the weight of it crush you. For 10 years you prayed to gods, begged them for victory, offered sacrifices. And now, when you stand in the ashes of a city, they do nothing. The gods are statues, cold and unmoved. It is men who kill, men who burn, men who decide the fate of empires. Cassandra is dragged past you again, her hair wild, her voice raw with fury. She screams curses at the Greeks, her eyes burning. You fools! You destroy what even the gods cherish. You doom yourselves. Soldiers laugh, jeering, striking her when she resists. They bind her and haul her toward the ships, her cries trailing behind like smoke. You shiver at her words. You wonder if she is right, if this night is not victory but a curse. The women of Troy are gathered in the squares, surrounded by guards. They wail, clutching their children, tearing their hair. Some sit in silence, their eyes blank, their souls already gone. The men are dead, the children too young or too weak to resist. The women are the spoils, they will be parceled out, slaves to the men who killed their families. You watch as names are called, as women are dragged to soldiers who sneer and gloat. Among them you see queens, princesses, priestesses. The high are brought as low as the poorest slave. All are bound alike. Andromache, Hector's widow, is among them. She clutches her empty arms, her eyes hollow. Her son lies dead, hurled from the walls. She is given to Pyrrhus, the son of Achilles, her husband's killer. You see her shoulders straighten, her face set in stone, though her eyes burn with grief. She walks like a woman already dead, carried forward only by will. Hecuba, Priam's queen, is dragged from the ruins, her hair matted, her robe torn. She stumbles, crying out for her husband, for her children. Her cries are ignored. She is bound, her crown torn from her head, her dignity stripped. She is no longer queen, only spoil. Helen too is here. She stands apart, her face pale, her eyes lowered. Menelaus grips her arm, his jaw clenched. You hear the whispers among the soldiers. Some curse her beauty as the cause of their suffering. Others marvel at her still, unable to resist. Menelaus stares at her with fury, but also with hunger, with longing, with something you cannot name. He does not strike her. He claims her. She is the prize that launched the war, and now she is the prize carried home. You cannot bear to look too long. You turn away, your throat tight, your chest aching. This is not victory. This is cruelty. This is ruin. The fires climb higher, devouring what little remains. The city groans as towers collapse, walls crumble, roofs cave in. The Scamander runs dark, choked with bodies. The air is a storm of ash and sparks. You stumble through it, coughing, your eyes burning, your body weary. Every step feels heavier, as if the city itself tries to drag you down with it. You pause in a narrow street, leaning against a wall blackened with soot. Around you, the cries still rise, but they are fading now. Fewer, weaker. Troy is dying. Soon, there will be nothing left. And in that moment you feel the weight of it all. 10 years of war, thousands of lives lost. Heroes fallen, kings broken, families destroyed. And for what? A city in ashes, a people enslaved, a legacy of grief. You wonder if this is what the gods wanted, or if it is only what men chose. You wonder if future generations will sing of glory, or if they will whisper of horror. The horse still stands in the square, its wooden flanks glowing in the firelight. It looms above the ruins, a monument to cunning and deceit. You stare at it, your fists clenched, your teeth grinding. Someday men will tell of the horse. They will speak of it with awe, with reverence. They will forget the screams, the flames, the faces, but you will not. You cannot. The women weep, the children wail, the men lie still, the city burns. The war is over. But in your chest, in your bones, you know, this is not victory. This is tragedy. You whisper it into the smoke, your voice hoarse, your throat raw. Troy is fallen, and we are fallen with it. The flames no longer roar with the same hungry violence as in the deep of night. By now, much of Troy has already been consumed. Still, the city smoulders, every gust of wind carrying sparks into the dawn sky, every collapse of timber coughing up fresh clouds of ash. The smoke rises in pillars that blot out the sun, so that even in morning light, it feels as though you march beneath a funeral shroud. You tread carefully through streets you once feared, streets where Hector and his men have charged out like lions, where archers once rained arrows from towers too high to touch. Now those same towers lean drunkenly, half-toppled, or lie already in heaps of stone. The proud city is unrecognizable, just blackened skeletons of homes, doorways leading to nothing, statues cracked in two, their faces melted by fire. And yet, not all is silence. The living still cry out. You turn into a small square, where a knot of Trojans have gathered around an elder. His robe is torn, his hair grey, his voice a chant. Even in ruin, he tries to lead a prayer, his hands raised to the sky. The women around him echo his words, their voices trembling, their tears streaking ash-covered faces. But the prayer is short. A band of Greek soldiers bursts into the square, and the chant collapses into screams. The elder tries to shield his people with outstretched arms, but a spear drives through his chest. He falls, blood staining the stones where he knelt. The women scatter, their cries piercing. A child hides beneath the elder's cloak, sobbing, until a hand drags him out. You grip your sword tighter, forcing yourself to move on. You tell yourself, this is war, this is what we came for. Yet, the words ring hollow. The war was for Helen. The war was for honor. The war was for vengeance. But what you see now is none of these things. It is only cruelty. Farther on, you hear the clash of steel. A handful of Trojan warriors still fight, their shields dented, their spears splintered. They hurl themselves at the Greeks with wild cries, knowing they will die but determined to drag enemies with them. You pause, watching as one Trojan drives his broken spear into a soldier's throat before being cut down himself. Their courage is terrible to behold. They are not fighting for victory anymore. They are fighting to die on their feet. By midday, the resistance is spent. The cries of defiance dwindle, replaced by sobs, by moans, by silence. The Greeks sweep the city with methodical cruelty, kicking down doors, dragging out survivors, piling treasure in the squares. Captives are gathered in long rows, their wrists bound, their eyes blank with shock. They sit in the dust, their shoulders slumped, their voices gone. They look less like people now than shadow. You see Andromache again, Hector's widow. Her hair is torn, her robe filthy, her face hollow. She is led away by Pyrrhus, his hand gripping her arm like iron. Her eyes burn, but not with hope, only with grief, with rage, too deep to speak. She stumbles, but she does not fall. She carries herself like a queen, even in chains, and the sight twists your stomach. Hecuba is near her, Priam's widow, her back bent, her hair white with ash. She wails, her voice hoarse, calling the names of her children, her husband. Her cries are endless, sharp, shattering. You want to cover your ears, but the sound clings, piercing, unforgettable. She is no longer a queen. She is grief itself, walking in chains. Cassandra is bound too, her arms lashed, her eyes blazing. She shrieks still, her voice ragged, her words a torrent of curses. You fools, you have doomed yourselves. The gods see, and they will strike. This fire will follow you home. The Greeks jeer, some mocking, some fearful, but none listen. She is dragged toward the ships, her voice trailing but never breaking. And Helen is there too. She stands apart, her robe torn but her beauty undimmed. Menelaus keeps her close, his jaw tight, his grip unyielding. His eyes burn with hatred, but also with hunger, with longing, with something dark. The soldiers whisper as she passes, some cursing her, some staring in awe. You cannot read her face. She walks silently, her eyes downcast, as if she carries the weight of every body, every flame, every scream. The spoils are divided, the captives are chosen, the highborn are parceled to kings, the rest to common soldiers. Gold and jewels are weighed, fabrics and vessels claimed. The city is stripped bare, its wealth and its people taken as prizes. The Greeks cheer, their voices hoarse, their faces black with soot, but lit with triumph. And yet you feel no triumph, only weariness, only emptiness. You wander to the walls, where the view stretches across the plain to the sea. From here you can see the fleet, black against the horizon, waiting. The ships that once brought you here, 10 years ago, will now carry you home. But you feel no joy at the sight. You feel only the weight of ash. The Scamander River winds below, its waters dark with blood, its banks choked with corpses. The plain where so many battles raged is quiet now, littered with broken spears, shattered shields, the bones of men and horses. It looks like another world, distant and forgotten, though it was only yesterday. You press your hands against the stone, your eyes burning with smoke and grief. 10 years you have waited for this day. 10 years you dreamed of Troy's fall. And now, when it lies broken at your feet, you feel only hollow. Night comes again. The fires still smoulder, but the city is silent now, too weak to scream. The captives huddle in groups, their chains clinking softly. The Greeks feast in the ruins, drinking stolen wine from stolen cups, their laughter echoing through the ashes. They boast of victories, of plunder, of women claimed. But their laughter is harsh, forced, the laughter of men trying to silence the screams still ringing in their ears. You sit apart, your sword beside you, your hands trembling. You stare into the flames, watching them twist and writhe, and you wonder if they will ever leave you. You wonder if the screams will follow you across the sea, if the smell of smoke will cling to your skin forever. The war is over. Troy has fallen. But in the quiet of night, you whisper to yourself, barely audible, "This is not the end, this is the curse." The last embers of Troy flicker weakly, yet the air still tastes of ash, still stings your eyes with smoke. The city lies in ruins, gutted and hollow, its stones blackened, its streets clogged with corpses and rubble. Towers that once glittered white in the sun, lean broken jagged lines against the sky. The Scamander runs sluggish, fouled with silt, blood and timbers. All around you, silence spreads, not the peace of rest, but the heavy stillness of exhaustion after screaming. The Greeks have finished their work. The fires have eaten what they could. The swords have silenced the last voices. Troy is not merely conquered. It is erased. No laughter will rise from its markets again. No hymns from its temples. No cries of warriors from its gates. Only ghosts remain. You walk among the survivors. They are gathered in clusters, bound with rope, their eyes blank. Women huddle together, their faces streaked with soot, their children pressed against them. Their robes are torn, their hair loose, their voices hoarse from weeping. Some stare ahead without seeing, their minds lost in grief too vast to measure. Others whisper to one another, their words soft, broken, but carrying faint threads of courage, promises to live, to endure, to remember. Hekorba sits among them, her back bent, her face hollow. She mutters her husband's name, her son's name, her city's name, over and over, as if repetition can bind them to memory. Andromache stares at nothing, her arms empty, her child gone. Cassandra's eyes burn with feverish clarity, her lips moving with curses, with warnings, with prophecies no one will believe. You turn away, your chest heavy. They are no longer queens, no longer priestesses, no longer wives of kings and princes. They are spoils, and Helen stands apart. Her beauty still glows, though dulled by smoke, by tears. Menelaus grips her arm, his face hard. Some soldiers murmur that he should strike her down, that she is the cause of it all. Others whisper that no man could ever raise a sword to such a face. You cannot read Helen's eyes. They are deep pools, reflecting fire and ruin, but also something else, resignation perhaps, or sorrow too heavy to carry. She does not resist Menelaus. She does not plead. She walks with him in silence, as if she has already endured every fate imaginable. The Greeks divide their spoils, their voices harsh and triumphant. Pyrrhus claims Andromache, dragging her like a prize. Agamemnon takes Cassandra, unmoved by her shrieking curses. Odysseus receives Hecuba, though he stares at her with a face that betrays no joy, only burden. Other women are handed out like treasures, their dignity stripped, their futures sealed. The soldiers cheer, but the sound rings hollow against the silence of the dead. As the night deepens, the Greeks feast amid the ruins. They sit on toppled stones, drinking stolen wine from golden cups, tearing meat with soot-blackened hands. They laugh, they boast, they sing. Yet beneath their revelry, you sense unease. Their eyes flicker toward the ruins, toward the flames, toward the captives who sit silent and bound. Some drink too much, their laughter too loud, as if trying to drown something they do not wish to hear. You cannot join them. You sit apart, your sword resting across your knees, your gaze on the smouldering city. Every gust of wind brings new sparks, new whispers of smoke. You see ghosts in the flames. Hector striding across the plain, Priam kneeling at the altar, Andromache cradling her son, Cassandra screaming her warnings. Their voices echo in your ears. You have destroyed us. You have doomed yourselves. Odysseus passes by, his face weary, his eyes sharp. He pauses, looking at you, as if measuring your silence. He says nothing, only nods once, and moves on. You wonder if he too feels the weight, if even the cunning king of Ithaca cannot escape the ghosts. At last, the feasting dies down. Men collapse where they sit, their heads lolling, their cups spilling. The fires burn low, the night grows still. The captives huddle closer together, whispering prayers, clutching their children. The ruins of Troy glow faintly in the moonlight, the smoke drifting like a shroud. You rise and walk once more through the city. Your boots crunch on ash, on broken stone, on bones. You pass the square where the horse still stands, its vast wooden body glowing faintly red in the dying firelight. It looms above the ruins, silent, monstrous, eternal. You shudder. Someday men will sing of the horse. They will call it cunning, clever, divine. But you will remember it as you see it now, a coffin, a beast of wood that carried death into a city's heart. You climb the walls, looking out over the plain. The fleet waits, dark against the horizon, ready to carry the Greeks home. You know that soon the order will come. Load the spoils, load the captives, burn what little remains, and sail away. The war is over. The dream of Troy is finished. And yet, as you stand there, staring at the ruins, you cannot shake the feeling that it is not truly over. Cassandra's words ring in your mind. This fire will follow you home. You think of Agamemnon, arrogant in his victory, his ships heavy with treasure and slaves. You think of Menelaus, clutching Helen with hands that tremble with both rage and desire. You think of Pyrrhus, drunk on blood and triumph. You think of Odysseus, cunning and silent, his eyes too sharp, too calculating. You wonder what curses they carry with them, what shadows they drag behind. The gods have been silent tonight. They have neither struck down nor saved, but you know they have watched, you know they have seen, and the gods never forget. You breathe in, the air thick with ash, and whisper to yourself, "We have ended Troy, but what have we begun?" The wind shifts, the flames hiss, the ruins groan. The night grows quiet. Now, let your breath slow. The smoke fades, the roar of flames softens, and the echoes of screaming die into silence. The city of Troy, proud and radiant, lies still at last. Stones cracked by fire cool in the night air. The horse that loomed above the ruins fades into shadow. All that remains is ash, dust, and the memory of what once was. You close your eyes and hear only the whisper of wind through broken towers, the hush of waves against the shore. The noise of battle fades, and in its place comes quiet, uneasy, but quiet all the same. The war that raged for 10 long years is finished. The warriors lie still, the women are silent, the gods are distant, nothing stirs but ghosts. And yet, even here, even in this silence, there is a kind of peace. The struggle is over. The endless days of waiting, of marching, of bleeding, of burning, all are done. The city that defied you has fallen. The story has reached its end. You breathe deeper now, slower. The air no longer tastes of ash, but of night. The stars return above the smoke, faint and steady. The weight of the sword eases from your hand. The cries slip away into the distance. You are no longer in Troy. You are here, safe, listening in the dark, your eyes heavy, your body sinking. And so the story ends. The city of Troy burns, but you drift now toward rest. Let the ruins fade. Let the fire die. Let the night carry you gently away. Good night. Sweet dreams.